put me in dangerous situations. I've been stabbed 5 times, 3 different occasions. I've been shot at, I've jumped out of windows, of trap dens or cuckoo properties, you want to call it. And this all would lead up to 2016, where I had a lot of accomplishments in the criminal network, but I wasn't satisfied.
Welcome, Still Shady. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, it's always good to hear that out loud. It's refreshing.
Yeah. So tell us where the name Still Shady comes from.
In a nutshell, wherever there's shade, there's light. So I've been in a dark place. Once upon a time, that was my alias on the streets. The man them, they would call me Shady. So wherever I was, that's how people would identify me. So all of the kind of perceptions that come with that name, Shady, was very much me as a characteristic. But of course, life changed and I realized there was more purpose in the name that I thought, you know, discovering what my real name meant, which was Luke, which means to give light. So those kind of two paradoxes came together. It was kind of crazy. It was like, oh, shade, like me being in a dark place, maybe there was a purpose of it, because you can't have shade without a light shining first. So yeah, the name's just about hope. It's a message of redemption. It's a message of God being in the midst of the challenges, the dark, the shade. Yeah. Because his light was shining to make it in the first place.
Amazing. So, you know, what were you like growing up? Let's start there.
Yeah, so South London boy, born in Brixton, house got burnt down, age 3, moved to another area of South London called Croydon, where I found my name, found my identity, found my friends, found my neighborhood, found my mistakes, found my challenges. I'm one out of 6 siblings, had a difficult relationship with my father growing up. I'm quite open about that as well in my music. And through all of the things that was taking place in my immediate household, I started to distance myself from home and really spend a lot of my time outside. Right. And during that time outside, I found safety, belonging in individuals that, you know, represented everything that wasn't my household. And I purposely drew to that because I didn't want my household. I didn't want that Christian background. I didn't want that safe haven that my mum would speak to me about, but I wouldn't really see. And that got me involved in gangs, you know, holding a knife, being on both sides of a knife, being shot at, and being involved in county lines, criminal exploitation, you know. So when I say criminal exploitation, you know, in terms of being adopted into a mindset where I was running around with individuals that were just glorifying crime, you know, and it was glorified, it was attractive, it was amazing. So that kept me occupied in my adolescent life. And I've seen, put me in dangerous situations. I've been stabbed 5 times, 3 different occasions. I've been shot at, I've jumped out of windows, of trap dens or cuckoo properties, you want to call it. And this all would lead up to 2016, where I had a lot of accomplishments in the criminal network, but I wasn't satisfied. Yeah. And that's when I needed to get out, innit?
Yeah.
So 2016.
So what happened in 2016?
I found Jesus, innit? I mean, specifically, I lost 2 of my friends. One of them was murdered and one of them was incarcerated for a long time. And then when those 2 things happened, I think I was pushed into a corner of addressing some things in my life that I feel everyone needs to address. Like, you get to an end, you get to an age, some people call it a midlife crisis. I mean, mine happened much earlier, where I just started to question, what is my life? What's its meaning? Because what I'm seeing, I'm gonna end up in jail, or I'm gonna die. I'm gonna lose my mind. And I was really leaning towards the losing mind because I literally had so much anxiety, Emily. Like, it was so mad. I was seeing all of this amazing stuff, popularity, money, respect, reverence from my peers, but I was not happy. So I just started hearing the word change. And I didn't know how that looked like ultimately at first, but I started to seek just change, and change is different to what you know. Change is different to what you're in front of. So everything I was in front of, the violence, the negativity, I looked elsewhere and I started to see peace and I started to see love. And then on the 4th of December 2016, that was an intimate moment where I acknowledged the author of that change. And I was like, okay, you're gonna give me this change. And I had a conversation with God. It was really, really surreal. And yeah, I just decided that I'm gonna chase him
Yeah.
and chase everything that he had for me.
And life changed from that point on.
Literally, yeah.
That's
I even
amazing.
dropped a song called Things Change
Yeah.
shortly afterwards, where I was just literally confessing that realities can transform in a blink of an eye. So yeah, it's crazy.
And you mentioned earlier on that your family had a Christian background.
Yeah, definitely.
So did that ever play a role, you know, on the years when you were on the streets? Did you ever think back to there being a God? Was that ever in your mind, or was it something that was always pushed out?
Yes and no. I think, you know, I believe the scriptures in Proverbs where it says, teach your child the way to go and they won't depart.
Yeah.
So I think there definitely was a space of acknowledgement. But when I think back now, it's crazy. When I would think past 2016 behind that, it's really dark and confusing. I've had individuals come up to me from my past and be like, yo, you did this. And I'm like, what? Sorry, bro.
That's not me.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, but I do have like odd recollections of me feeling some level of conviction and me thinking that I need to change, but not enough for me to get, I was immersed.
Yeah.
I was immersed.
Yeah. And thinking about life after, what for you were the biggest changes? What for you was just totally different? Because I'm sure there are people watching now who could be in the place that you were before 2016, or they could be in the place where you were after. But was there anything for you that really just...
Love is sweet, you know? Real love is sweet. Like, pure love is sweet. Like, as you're asking me that question, I'm just thinking about the individuals I started to meet and encounter after 2016. Good people, loving people. Like, my mentor today, like, he's just he's just a resemblement. He just resembles just love, you know? And I realized that I didn't have love when I was on road. Like, even some of my closest friends, you know, from back then, like, we didn't love each other. We didn't care for each other. We didn't look out for each other. We didn't hear each other. We couldn't cry to one another. We couldn't open up what we were really feeling and talk about our demons. We didn't do none of that. So when I started to, when I was introduced to these brothers and sisters and role models that they actually care for your soul, that will make a tough man cry, you get me? So like, love was an experience that I see daily in fellowship, in community, and just the brothers, the sisters of the faith. So definitely, that's one thing that I enjoyed.
That's amazing. And, you know, we see it in the UK today and it happens across the world, but gang violence is so prevalent. You know, what would you say to maybe some parents watching or some young people watching who find themselves stuck in those areas? Yeah,
just talk to your kids. Just know your kids. Know their friends, you know their interests. You know, just like spend as much time as possible. And in this day and age, it's very difficult. And I would also say sorry, because, you know, today's society and the way things have been built up with the 9-to-5 system and school, it's difficult to know your kids in that capacity. But invest and find a way to, because if I could speak to my parents, you know, or just a carer, like teachers, professionals that were supposed to safeguard me, I might have not made the decisions I made. So that's what I can really say.
Yeah. Do you still interact or, you know, see the people that were in your past life?
Yeah, absolutely. Light in the shade.
Yeah.
I won't be I'm off brand if I don't.
Yeah.
I'm in dark places every day. I have to be, you know, and because that's where I believe Jesus would be. He would be going there and shining light where no darkness can comprehend. So a lot of my work, music, where it's taken me is not just, you know, to be in the church building, you know, it's to be in the prison walls, it's to be in the nightclubs, it's to be anywhere where I can proclaim and make sure that my light is so shining that they can see good works and glorify him. So and I love my brothers. I miss them. I need to be a support for them, and every day, you know, it's a fight, you know, and it's difficult, especially when you're wrestling with compromise. You know, you got to be really wise. It's not easy, because a lot of that it's not easy to be in a dark place. And that's why you need your people. Don't go there by yourself, yo. You need a team. You need people that see light as well. So
Tell us about your music career. So when did it first start for you?
Well, music in terms of creativity, I feel like I've been creating all my life. I think I went into the first Cubase room in secondary school around year 8. So I wrote my first song like 12.
Wow.
But I mean, yeah, so since then I've been creating music, and I've released music and I've seen some huge heights actually before 2016. But it was actually in 2016 that I think when I found myself, found my brand, my purpose, that I really established a career. So I would say officially I've been making music as a professional since 2016.
And where does the inspiration come from?
A lot of things. I'm a overthinker.
Yeah.
I'm visual. So that's why I need to travel as well. And I think that's just how God has made me to feel and connect. So I will just see things and I'll just be inspired to just write and touch on topics. And that's why my music's very versatile and it's just how I'm feeling today. So yeah, it's really internal, me processing and then pushing it back into the atmosphere.
And what do you hope people will gain from hearing your music?
Truth and a perspective, my perspective, an honest perspective, transparency. It depends on what the song is. Like sometimes I want to say a song about hope and love, then I want to talk about pain. I've released a whole EP prior to the pandemic after my car crash called Sabbath, where I got into a car crash and all I wanted to do was create about rest and talk about just stopping. So I'm really sensitive with the times. I want to take something that's happened to me and give it to the world.
Yeah. But Still Shady, you mentioned earlier on that when you were in 2016, you didn't know where your life was going. You couldn't see past it. You mentioned it was like an early midlife crisis.
For real.
If you look at your life now, what are your hopes? What are your dreams for the future?
Yeah, it's funny because if I'm being real with you now, the man that sits here today is going through new challenges. Yeah, I'm not going to say I got it all together, but I thought I did. But I'm just being humbled even as I speak now to realise that I don't really know a lot of things. So yeah, I mean, there's projects on the way, there's huge milestones to complete, but I think what I really want to say in this moment is that I need to be content and still, because I'm always on the go.
Yeah.
And I've lost some strong relationships in my life of recent because of that. And I think that's like the sacrifice and the burden that can come from someone that's so invested in what God has given them.
Yeah.
So I'm just in the balance of really just knowing and being content with not knowing.
Yeah.
So that line of balance is an interesting place.
And sometimes the best place to be, isn't it? When we're fully reliant on God, when we're not, we're not reaching for the next goal or reaching for the next thing, but really just saying, God, here I am. Use me. Whatever comes next.
Yeah. So we keep moving. I mean, there's exciting stuff. People those that are really locked in the journey will know.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about it. But yeah, definitely being content and at bliss in knowing that every day is an excitement either way.
Definitely. In schools and prisons, how do they respond to hearing your music and your testimony?
I feel like what they say is like, oh, because, and I like that, they're shocked because they see a lot of rappers and they don't really understand their story.
Right.
And whether that's because they've told a lie in their music, like they've glamorized the truth that isn't actually truth, or they're just concealing it and no one really knows the person behind the artist. So I really pride myself in going into places that my peers don't really go into and just showing them the reality. Like, this is me, this is who I am, this is where I came from, and this is not right. This is right. And I really want to break it down to them so they can learn from my story, because it's rap culture, we know about rap. It's not really attractive in when the things that we talk about, but we make it seem attractive. That's another thing that I feel I need to break, that stigma. I want to break it, because you can be, you can be cool. You can carry yourself in a proud way without compromising things that you morally weren't raised to really accept. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense.
So yeah, I'm just really trying to make sure young men and young women can see me and really understand.
Yeah. And it's like the scripture says, being in the world but not of the world.
Exactly.
And it even goes back to your name, Still Shady. You know what I mean? So it's all
go.
connected. See?
Rapping, come on.
We did it all, full circle.
There you go. Absolutely. And it's important. So as long as I'm here, I'm always going to try to be an open voice. Yeah. You know what I mean? I got a piece one day that I realized I'm not just a rapper. I'm a voice. I'm a sound.
Yeah.
You know, so whether it's on and off the stage and when the music doesn't play, just remember that there's always going to be a light in the shade.
Yeah.
So that's my proclamation wherever I go.
Awesome. Well, Still Shady, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your testimony. And I really hope that, you know, for our viewers watching, that it really resonates with them.
Yeah.
And as you said, you know, it might spur some parents on to speak to their kids,
yeah,
or,
absolutely.
you know, to make sure they're talking to their family members. So thank you for sharing with us.
Always. It's been a pleasure.